Welcome Ultimate DIYers. Today we're going to change out a Fluidmaster flush valve, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Not too difficult. So let's get to it. So I had a regular customer who just gave me a call, said they're hearing a water running in the walls, maybe even up above their bathroom area, and they think there must be a broken pipe or something in the house. So I went over to listen, and you walk in and it was extremely loud. I could hear it almost sounded mechanical, like a vibrating through the walls. Well, went over, lifted up the back of the toilet, took the cover off of the tank, and sure enough, I could hear it coming out of that valve. You reach down and push the valve, and the sound stops. So it was actually causing a mechanical vibrating noise that was vibrating into the walls and into the ceiling. So I can see why the customer was a little worried and upset, thinking there was some kind of problem. I knew right away that that probably wasn't the problem, because if there was a broken pipe and you had water running, you're probably going to have a soaked floor or something somewhere. Even if you're pier and beam, it's going to be a river underneath your house or a lake. So we're going to go ahead and change out the Fluidmaster valve today. Not real difficult. I'm going to try to stay out of frame, let you guys get a good look at how it's done, because it's a simple project that any DIYer should be able to do. Now, you may hear a lot of dog barking. They have 3 large dogs here in the house, and they're not real happy about me being here. So I'll try to keep them at bay as much as I can so you don't have to listen to barking all day. But let's go ahead and get in and let's get this valve replaced. And what I'm going to do before I start replacing is I'm going to try to get in close with the camera and let you hear what this is, the noise that it's making. Now, right now, not near as loud as it was yesterday. I think it builds up over time and gets air pressure in the system, but you'll kind of have an idea. And then I'm going to get into taking the tank, draining all the water out of the tank, loosening up that valve, getting it off, getting the new valve on, and setting everything up. Now, keep in mind, on these valves, you can a lot of times pull the cap off, clean out the garbage and stuff that builds up in it, and use the same valve. Personally, for the price of what it costs for them to have me come and do this anyway, the valve isn't much more expensive to go ahead and get a new valve put in. So let's get in there and get to it. So you can see now how this thing is making noise and it's just running, and it is not near as loud as it was before. But if you look at that thing right now, it's just constantly shooting water down it. Now you can adjust the valve and get that to quit doing that. We're going to go ahead and, like I said, put the brand new valve in and reset everything. But you can imagine how much water this is wasting right now, because it just keeps on going. And once it gets to a certain point, this thing just starts vibrating like crazy and has a terrible mechanical sound. Okay, guys, this is my water valve. This house has a lot of sprinkler systems and a pool, so they have a big valve. Somebody's already had it off, so it's pretty easy to get this one up. If I had to go through this hook here, by the way, I use this, put it in, turn, and pull up. Didn't need it. This valve has a shut-off tool on the end, but this is going to be too small for this one. This is the large one, so I'm going to have to use the big one here. This wire here you want to be careful with, because nowadays they don't really read the valves anymore. They use this, and it's a sending unit, so it's done electronically. So all we're going to do is find where the water comes in from the city and heads to the house, and you look at your valve and you're going to have an arrow. That arrow pointing that way means that the water is flowing into the house. We want to turn it sideways to block the water. Just basically a pretty simple valve. So you turn it where now the arrow is pointing this way. That should block the water. You go turn on your faucets, let the pressure out, make sure that the water is actually fully off, and then we will disconnect the actual toilet water and go. Now, this toilets generally have a shutoff, but the shutoff is not really working very well inside the home. Okay, guys, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I pull my lid off, and you want to put this lid somewhere safe. I'm going to carry it into the other room. Get all the excess water, because if you break that lid, you're buying a new tank. And if that tank is black like this one, you're probably not going to find the tank. So technically now you're replacing a toilet. So we do that, then we are going to flush it, get out the excess water as much as we can. I generally will hold the valve up a little to make sure as much as possible goes down the flapper. If you let go, the flapper tends to close. So now I am going to use my wetback, and I'm going to get a little bit more of that water out. So I usually carry a small wetback with me, and it's going to make some noise here for a second, guys, but I get all the water out. Sorry about that noise, but that's what you got to do. You want to get that tank as dry as possible. So now I'm going to go underneath and kind of try to show you. I'm going to try to hold the camera and show you what you undo so that we can pull the valve out. What we are looking for, and let me go ahead and get a little closer view for you guys. The valve that's coming out is going to be right here. This is your flapper mechanism. We're not going to mess with that, but we're pulling all of this off. This screw, set screw, is where we adjust the actual float. And there's a plastic type nut on the other side of this going through there with a little washer that holds it in place. We're going to take that off, pull it out, and put the new one in. So let's go ahead and see if I can get you a little bit of a close-up so you can see what I'm undoing. All right, so this is going to be the, back that out just a little. You can see the line that goes into your water shutoff. The water shutoff, if you notice, they did not leave enough room to be able to even turn the shutoff. Kind of a bad placement of where they actually put that shutoff. That's why I had to shut off the water out at the street. But you're going to come up here, and this is usually just going to be hand tight, and you're going to have to start turning it and back it off. Now you're going to see probably a little bit of water, but not much. So here it comes. Very little. See, that was it. Easy to pick up. So now this is pretty well ready. Just like so. That's simple. This one is actually should be ready to come out. We'll come back up to the top so that you can see. And this should just pull straight up and out, which it does. So your entire unit now is done. The other valve, we just unscrewed the little screw, the little locking nut, plastic. You do it by hand, pull it out. There's actually two of them. You'll have one that is your hose line and one that actually holds this. This comes from the factory with the gasket already on it, so you can't mess that up. You can actually pull this and turn it to change the height of this as needed. Now, what you can do is, to save yourself a little time, is go ahead and take your old one, hold it up to it, and see where you're at. Now, this one is identical, so they have it at factory, so I don't really need to mess with it. If you do, you take this little locking nut, slide it up, and then you can turn this to where the height that you want. I'm going to leave it right where it was at, pull my locking nut back down. And then when I get my flush set, I'm going to be spinning this to get the float where I want it so that it doesn't go over that and keep running. Like I said, if you have a problem with these, you can pop this cap off. I don't know if I really want to mess with this one right now. It's a brand new one, but you just pop the cap off and you can clean the inside. Now, we will take this piece, and this comes with it, which will go here, and we can readjust this to the right height. And another thing I can do is go ahead and pull my valve again and see where they had theirs. Theirs is cut a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually adjust that till I get it in place, and then I'll adjust that line, the fill line, and reset it so it goes on the tube. So all we're going to do now is we're going to take this and we are going to put it into, and this one sets backwards, I think. Let's see. Yeah, our fill line is, it's pretty close. And I think they had this facing the opposite direction earlier, but I would not know without actually looking at it. So you're just going to take it, put it down in that hole, and we are going to take the locking nut. This is the one that comes with this one, and we're just going to reach underneath and just put it on the end. It just screws on there. And just about up there. Now I want to try to hurry and get that hose because it has a little drip even with the water shut off. But I do have my wet vac to clean that up. So I want to look at this and make sure I'm below my lid. This is right where I need it to be. Now this one's kind of interesting. It has an adjustment. All right, that's pretty snug. So now I'm going to go ahead and hook up my water line next. Okay, so the top bonnet is right here, which is actually screwed tight. And now I'm putting on the actual water line. You can see the water. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but the water that has been running out of the line. Now I tried to suck the line itself with the back, and it did not get it all. So you're going to get this nice and snug. It does not have to be really tight. You should not even have to put tool on this. There we go. Now they're both connected. The water line was already on to begin with. So the valve now is all hooked up. My plunger looks good. Now this is a good time if you want to go ahead and replace the flapper. The customer bought this valve when we put it on, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. It seems to be working okay. We're going to try it. Now what I want to do though is we want this. I'm almost thinking maybe should have loosened that and turned that just yeah. There we go. And something about like right in there is where I want it. So we're going to cut this. Now you can use a razor knife, you can use a pocket knife. I just happen to have some little cutters in here. That's what I'm going to use. And we're going to take and put this, it's like a little barbed fitting on the end. We're going to place that inside of it, like so. A little tough to get that in there. So you pull this thing open a little, slide it on. Now you want to make sure you don't have a kink in that line, but about like that. And now we're going to go turn the water back on, and let's see what it does. Okay guys, I've got water back on. I'm looking for any drips, which we have none. We stopped with plenty of room. We can actually adjust that up a little, but we're going to do a double flush here. Your water is coming through the hose into the tube, which it's supposed to be. Now this, that can actually speed it up. I like that. So you can slow that down or speed up your water flow with this new one. Very cool. So I do like that. So let's put it on maximum fill up time. And we're stopping. I don't know if you can actually see it in the video, but we are quite a ways away from where it really needs to be. I'm going to zoom in just a little more for you. So what we're going to do, we got to figure out, I'm not sure if this one is down or up. I would imagine it's clockwise. Let's see, that may actually make it less fill. I may be wrong, it may be the opposite direction because it's shortening. It's pushing that further down. We may need it up higher. You'd actually, by going clockwise, pushes your float down. So I'm pretty sure I'm opposite direction of what I need to do. We'll let it fill and make sure. Yeah, so let's try a counter, and we're going to go quite a bit down. There we go. Well, and as you're doing it, it's actually moving up. So that's one way to tell. Let's try that. I think the other one was a little bit high to begin with, a little too high. And you can see where it had been working its way up over time. Now you want to get it as tall as you can without it going over the top. I could go slightly more, and I may do that just a click. Actually, I think I'm going to leave it. That seems to be pretty good right where it's at. My handle, I know that it's not bad. It's going to be underneath my top. This is under the top. Everything is good. You look for leaks since you've been moving this around. Make sure you're not leaking from your tank to your bowl now. Make sure that all the connections you made under are dry. Fill with your hand. Make sure that there's nothing there. Also, if you ever have to get a new tank, just so that you know, your model numbers on most tanks, this is a Kohler, and my model number is right here. So that helps me for parts, and it helps me if I have to get a new tank, I can get that. Now, you can put a different type tank on most bowls. I have seen Totos where they put Kohler tanks on the back, and they'll generally work. It's not really, though, the way the whole system was designed. If I'm replacing a tank, unless I can get the exact tank, I generally like to replace a whole toilet. But all you do at this point is you're just going to put your lid back on, nice and gentle. Matter of fact, I'll do that right now so you can see it. So you'll grab the lid, take it, and you slide it on. Like I said, the lid's very important because you break that lid. They do have some aftermarket lids, but they're generally white, kind of crappy, not really a good thing. Your customer's not going to be happy if you're doing this for a customer. Your wife's not going to be happy probably if you're doing it for yourself. So protect that lid. But outside of cleaning it up, guys, we are pretty well done. Okay, guys, there you go. Quick recap. Super easy. You can put a valve like that in 15 minutes or less. It's something that every handyman or homeowner should be able to do. Very, very simple. If you're struggling at all, watch the video over and over so you see it basically the way I put it in, and you can read your instructions as well. So the big takeaways, though, make sure your water's shut off. Make sure you drain the lines first so you let the pressure out. Keep a trash can or something nearby to catch any water overflow. If you have a wetback, I highly recommend using the wetback. Makes things a lot simpler. Go in, put the valve in, make sure that the little wing nuts are tight. You really don't need a tool for those. Those are hand tight. And then you'll adjust it at the top with the little, it's a hand screw thing. You'll see that it's actually slotted for a Phillips. I generally don't use the Phillips. I don't want to break it. They're plastic pieces. You'll do that. Make sure that you set your float level. Take and make sure that your hose is not kinked, because that'll cause you a problem. It needs to be a nice straight flow. And on the newer ones like that, when you have a water shutoff, and you can control how much water goes into your bowl at one time. I set that one maximum so it'll fill up as quickly as possible. So until the next one, I do appreciate it. If you did get something out of this, be sure and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, be sure and hit that like button. That really helps us. And hit the bell notification so you know about all the upcoming videos as they come along. If you want to leave a comment, I know it takes a little extra effort, but I greatly appreciate it, and I do read all the comments. Thank you guys for watching.